Welcome everybody to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm delighted to see you here this morning, as with every Monday morning, where it's your home for inspiration, 30 minutes of inspiration, where every week we highlight and spotlight an Israeli, either individual, business owner, or organization, nonprofit that's making a difference. And today I have a very, very special guest. Yes, I know I say that every single week, and you probably say, yes, every day she's saying has a special guest. I'll soon tell you in a moment who our special guest is and why he's a special guest. In the meantime, I welcome you here, whether you're joining live, which is always fabulous, or whether you're watching the recording on YouTube or on Spotify. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Welcome you here, as I said, every time, with thanks also to our sponsors, to Naradis Advisors, as well as to Eggert & Cohen Insurance. So without further ado, I'm actually going to remove the spotlight on me and put it on our guest for today. And I'll tell you who he is and why what he's doing is so special, as well as the fact that I've actually known him. Our guest, here we go, Shlomo. Good morning, Shlomo Kessel. I've known Shlomo for well over 30 years. I haven't seen him in more than 25, 30 years. And we actually happened to bump into each other at a mutual event about 2 months ago. And I said to him, Shlomo, great to see you. I have to have you on my Monday Motivation Spotlight. So that's where it all came about. So who is Shlomo? Shlomo Kessel, of course, has been involved. He's currently the International Director of Philanthropy for Emunah, the National Religious Women's Organization. He's worn different hats over the years. He's been in Emunah for more than 40 years, which is incredible, making a huge difference on the social side of Israel's weaker link. And he served as World Director or Director of World Emunah. And for many, many years, most of his years, he was involved as a counselor and running many of the youth villages and children's homes of Emunah around the country. And he'll tell us more about it. Shlomo is also a social worker. He has a degree in social work from Bar Ilan and an MSW from Haifa University. And I'm also delighted to share, Shlomo, firstly, for many of you may know, some of you don't know, Emunah was my home for more than 30 years, where I was involved. Recently, I moved to Netanya, so that's when I had to, leave Emunah in Jerusalem. But I was involved in Emunah in Jerusalem and Ma'ale Adumim for well over 30 years with my friends and partners in crimes, two of them who I see are here today, our friends Rini Becker and also Lisa Marcus. I'm delighted to see that they've joined. So Shlomo, take it away. Tell us a little bit about who is Shlomo Kessel. Tell us about Emunah, and we're delighted to have you here and making such a difference.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Lesley, for this opportunity to not to speak about myself, which is something that I try not to do too much, but to tell a story of an organization that I have had the privilege to be part of for almost 45 years. I made Aliyah to Israel in 1981, January. I still remember looking at people who had been here for 5 years as if they were on some kind of pinnacle of achievement, that they'd been here for 5 years. And I literally, it's hard to believe that I've been in Israel for 45, lived in Israel for 45 years and built my life here and my family, and pretty much tied up together with this organization. So I grew up in Cape Town and visited Israel for the first time when I was 16 for 3 months with a school program, and then in 1981 came to Israel with the intention of studying for a year at yeshiva. They used to call it BMT in Jerusalem, Beit Midrash LeTorah, but it was more basketball mitzvah than it was a fun place to be. And after a few months, I decided already that I was not going back to South Africa and I would make my life in Israel. And my mother and I joke about the fact that it's probably because she and I were better friends when she was in South Africa and I was in Israel. We'd been brought up in a Zionist environment. My father was the headmaster of two major Jewish day schools in South Africa. And Israel and Yiddishkeit was very much part and parcel of who we were, and what our family was. And I decided to stay here. And after spending a year and a half in yeshiva studying, I realized that I wanted to go on and do something professionally. I had six months before the school year started, the university school year, I enrolled in Bar Ilan, but I had time, and somebody suggested to me that there was this children's home in Bnei Brak, where they were looking for a replacement counselor for two counselors who were going, one after the other, were going to Miluim. So not much has changed, unfortunately, in our country since then. It was the beginning also of the first Lebanese war at that time, and these two fellows were going into the army. And in December 1982, I was given a 2-month temporary position at Achuzat Sarah, a children's home. I'm very grateful for that, not only because it turned out to be a very significant and meaningful career where I had this opportunity to change lives in a way that I did not expect, working with children, which is what I love. The only thing I'd ever done before was being a counselor, being a madrich in Bnei Akiva. So the only thing I knew was children, and I got this opportunity without any training. I always tell people that I arrived at this children's home. My Hebrew wasn't so bad. After 12 years in South Africa, we had Hebrew literally from nursery school, from kindergarten, and through all the way through high school. My conversational Hebrew wasn't too bad, but I wasn't really fluent. And I will say that in the first month, I learned all of the swear words in Hebrew from the children. That was the first thing that I became very, and also because none of the children, even today, children in Israel speak a lot better English, even if they're not fluent. In those days, none of the children spoke any kind of English at all. We had one American boy who was there for the circumstances of these children, which I'll talk about in a moment, is very unfortunate. And so there was one boy there who was American or had American parents. But I went there, I had a beard and my tzitzis out. And the first week I was attacked basically by a young boy who was very angry. Now, he wasn't angry at me, and all I did was probably tell him to do something very, very outrageous, like take a shower, or do his homework, or something like that, clean his room. But he got very upset with me for trying to, discipline him, and he threw a chair at me, a stool. I still have the mark to this day. And that was my introduction to what they call today children at risk in Israel. I will say today that, as you can see, I don't have the beard and my tzitzis are not hanging out, but the boy who threw the chair at me has a very long beard and his tzitzis are hanging out, and he has lovely children, and he lives in I think it's Yavne. His name is Golan, and so this was my introduction to working life in Israel and to these children, and I literally fell in love with these families. And the 2-month long job has turned out to be it was 6 years in Achuzat Sarah, and then moving to another one of our children's villages in Pardes Chana, and which is the area where I've spent most of my life and where my children grew up. So this has been a very significant career and an opportunity really to make a difference in the lives. We always say that the goal of whatever Emunah does, and Emunah does a lot of different things which perhaps I'll mention in a moment. The goal of what Emunah does is to make sure that the children that we are treating at the moment will not need our services in the future, because this is the ultimate success of what we do. When I speak to young kids and try to convey to them what it means to be a child at risk, and I'm not even talking about trauma in the sense that we really all talk about it today after the terrible events of the last year and a half, but trauma by being the trauma being dripped onto your soul, onto your psyche for so many years. And I say to the children, who would like to have a day off school tomorrow? And of course, all the kids put up their hands and they all want to take a day off school. That's nice. I would like to have a week off school. And so once again, most of the kids will put up their hands and they're only too happy. And then I'll say, who wants to have a month off school starting tomorrow? And there's still some kids who, I will say the boys more than the girls, put up their hands. And then I say, who would like to have a year off school from tomorrow, no strings attached? And there's always one kind of like wise guy who'll put up his hand, but everybody now understands there's an issue. And then I say, who would like to have an hour of school because mom was too drunk to wake you up in the morning and send you to school? And so you're late. And of course, nobody will put up their hand at that stage. And that conveys to these people who are the children and why we're talking about them being traumatized. The very fact that these people don't have anybody they can trust, that nobody is making sure my grandchildren can get up in the morning. They know somebody's going to, even if I'm assuming my daughter and son-in-law are not so happy to get up early in the morning to take these kids to school, especially on a cold day, or they've been working until late. There's food on the table, whatever the children need, and we put our needs, obviously, we put the needs of our children ahead of our own personal needs. And this is what I found very early on, that a lot of the times we're dealing with families who are unable to prioritize and to really set their own personal needs and impulses aside and to care for their children. And when I was established in 1935, I was not part of the organization at that time, but it's an organization that was opened in order to provide daycare for the children of working mothers. And it was later on, it was started, it was started in England, and then pretty much soon after that, we're celebrating our 90th anniversary at a large event, or two events this week, actually, on Thursday. On Tuesday and on Tuesday and on Thursday. And so this has been, the organization started off with really very, very minor, and then went on to take care of children who were survivors of the Holocaust and families that were displaced and immigrants from all over the world, North Africa, from Yemen. Then, of course, a lot of Ethiopian immigrants in the children's villages and children's homes and youth villages. In our schools, we have 4 high schools we have 5 residential homes for at-risk children and immigrants. We have 4 schools for religious girls' high schools located. I always say we have 2 schools in Bnei Brak, and we're probably the only secular libraries that still exist in Bnei Brak are in the Emunah schools. So we provide education as a religious Zionist education, modern, very high level, to both girls who want to achieve and are able to achieve, but also very inclusive for students who need that additional support. and we have a school in Pardes Chana, we have a school in Jerusalem. We have something that's become very, very significant over the past 18 months are our family intervention and trauma counseling centers, which were established before October 7th, long before October 7th, in very, very strategic places, Sderot and Netivot and Nahariya, and a lot of places in the middle, to provide high-level subsidized emotional treatment and support to traumatized children and victims. I can tell a lot of stories, but one story that stuck with me, this is pre-October 7th, was a story of a little girl who lives in Sderot who went to a birthday party in Tel Aviv and walked into the room and burst out crying. Nobody could understand why until they realized that the room was full of balloons. And this little 5-year-old had been taught that a balloon is something that you don't touch, that you don't go anywhere near, because it could be a bomb, an incendiary device. It could be a threat. And so this girl walks into a room filled with balloons that everybody else thought was such a joyous occasion. And she saw this as a threat. This was one of the children that was treated in our special counseling center in Sderot. So my role has evolved over many years, and I'm very grateful, as I've been saying, that this organization has given us the opportunity, or different people. One of the principles of Emunah is to actually promote people from within the organization, and to find people and to help them to grow into more senior roles. And so over the years, I moved from one project to the other and have been able to take on different roles. The last role that I had in the children's villages was in Afula, where I ran the Emunah Children's Home, a British Emunah project in Afula, which was established there in 1949. And then I moved over to World Emunah, and later on to this role that I am working in currently as head of international philanthropy, basically the chief schnorrer of the organization. So that is...
Chief Schnorrer, I like to say you're the man behind the organization.
Well,
There are other men in Emunah, but literally you're the one that's been there the longest, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Possibly as the employees, I don't know. I'm not a competition, but I've been around, and I have the privilege of knowing the organization really well from all different angles, having worked in various parts of the organization, and so able to bring the word to people who are willing to listen or willing to support us and get involved in volunteering, whether it's providing the resources that we need to do what I mentioned before, was to break the cycle. So to break the cycle of this little presentation, I would like to ask Lesley to put on a brief video, which I've chosen out of dozens that we have, many of which were done together with friends of mine on the team, like Rini. We did a lot of videos together. So this video is a story of a girl in the children's home that I ran in Afula, who started off as a child with unfortunate circumstances and has gone on to become a significant member of our team in the home, as you'll see. So
okay, so it's 2.5 minutes long, and it's in Hebrew with English subtitles.
Thank you.
קוראים לי מזל, עליתי מאתיופיה לישראל דרך סודאן, דרך שהייתה מלאת תלאות. הגענו לעפולה, כל המשפחה, ההורים, האחים שלי, היו קשיי קליטה. בבית המצב הכלכלי הוא לא היה פשוט. אבא שלי לקה בעיוורון, אמא שלי עבדה בניקיון. בגלל שהיא המפרנסת היחידה, אז הילדים סייעו בבית. צריכה לעזור ולנקות, ולבשל, ולסדר, ולשחק עם האחים. לא היה לנו חוגים, לא היה לנו חופשות. ההורים שלי לא יכלו להרשות את המותרות האלו. רציתי להיות ילדה ולחוות ילדות שפנויה מכל דאגה אחרת. בבית זה לא היה אפשרי. בעצם הבנתי שאני רוצה להיות במסגרת פנימייתית. כשהגעתי לפנימיית אמונה, פגשתי פה צוות מגויס ורוצה לעזור ולקדם, שזה מה שהייתי צריכה, שמי שיתמוך בחלומות שלי, ברצונות שלי, בשאיפות שלי. כשגדלתי, החלטתי שאני רוצה ללמוד לימודי עבודה סוציאלית, שזה היה החלום שלי, להיות עובדת סוציאלית. כיום אני עובדת בפנימיית אמונה. התפקיד שלי בעצם זה לדאוג לרווחתם של החניכים, הן מבחינה טיפולית, הן מבחינה רפואית, הן מבחינת רווחה נפשית שלהם. המקום הזה מהווה בית שני לילדים שנמצאים כאן, וגם אלו שכבר סיימו כאן. הצוות כאן מתייחס לילדים, אילו היו הילדים שלהם, באהבה גדולה, במסירות, אכפתיות, ודאגה ענקית. אני מתרגשת שאני במעמד הזה של לאהוב ילדים של מישהו אחר, כאילו הם הילדים שלך.
So, thank you. So I'm sorry that the quality of the video over Zoom was a little blurry, but we could always share a link of the original on YouTube and you could see that. And this is just one example of a story. And that video was made a while ago. Mazal, who still works for us in the capacity, but she is now head of the social work team and responsible for the entire therapeutic component of the work that the home does with the children. So we're very, very proud of the fact that she was one of our students and is now head of, one of our managers, one of our senior team members. I think what I love about Emunah, and then if anybody has questions or would like to know anything specifically, please feel free to share them. Yeah, you were a madricha at Neve Michael, really? Wow, Lisa, that's great. That's crazy. I didn't even know that, or maybe didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what I've always loved about Emunah, which I felt was our role also as Dati Leumi, religious Zionists, whatever, was being a bridge to so many different population groups in Israel. We have had the ability to connect and to care for so many different. At one time, it was more, Sephardi Jews, children of Sephardi Jews. Then it was a lot of children, immigrants from the previous Soviet Union. At the moment, very interestingly, we have an upswing of children. Unfortunately, maybe we should say, because we obviously want less and less. There was a rabbi in Colorado once who gave me a check, and at the bottom he wrote, "I pray and hope that next year you will be unemployed." That was about 35 years ago. And unfortunately, we're not unemployed and we still treat the children. As I said, we really hope that we're not seeing the same families again and we're breaking that cycle. But what I really like is the fact that at the moment we're seeing an uptick or an upswing in children from Haredi families that are in our children's homes, again, for various reasons. I don't really have time to get into the demographic explanations of why every time we're seeing a different group of people, but it's just the ability of Emunah to adapt to the needs and not kind of be completely sold on a certain concept. We adapt our projects, we redevelop our projects. Only recently, we've had in one of our big children's villages, We've had a shelter for abused women and their families, their children, which we opened at the request during COVID, at the request of the Israeli government, social services. So a lot of kind of meeting the needs of Israeli society, changing Israeli society in various ways, and of course, investing. And anybody who helps us is investing in the resiliency and the strength of Israeli society, which is, we've proven to ourselves, even though some people might have had doubts a year or a year and a half ago about the resiliency of Israeli society. I travel a lot to America. I've had people say to me, do you think Israel will be around in another 5 years, in another 10 years? And people are asking these questions seriously. It's not like they're saying, they're doing it in order. I'm not talking about anti-Semites or people who are looking to sort of nudge us, poke us. These are Jews who are committed to Israel, who love Israel, who have their fears and their doubts. And they project those onto Israel. And we've proven how strong and how resilient we are, despite all the tragedy and the terrible experiences that pretty much all of us on various levels have had to experience over the last year and a half. So I really feel very privileged to live here, to have all of my children, my 4 children have stayed here and not really entertaining the thought of moving anywhere else. My grandchildren live 2 floors down in the same building. We live in a city called Harish, which many of you might know. It's become much more well known over the recent years. Gone from one little street which had immigrants on one side and an Arab clan from Ramle, which was brought here on the other side, to a city of 40,000 people, all very new and well planned, with a mixed demographic. And we're very, very lucky to be part of that kind of ongoing development here in this country. And people who come here are astounded by what we've achieved. So thank you so much. Lesley, as you said, the half an hour goes very quickly. And if anybody has any comments, I'd love to hear. And if we don't have time, then you can certainly
tell people also how they can get hold of you, Shlomo, or how they can, if anyone would like to contribute to Emunah, whether it's as a volunteer, and Emunah is always looking and needing volunteers, whether it's as a donation. What's the best way to reach you or
I'm putting on the chat here, on the chat, first of all, connection to our World Emunah donation page, where everybody
great. For those of you that are watching the recording and don't see it,
get more information and see different things about our projects. And as we speak, I'm just going to put here my email address. So if anybody would like to contact me about anything, in any way I can help with anything, please feel free.
Great. If you can just say that out loud as well, Shlomo, because those that are watching the YouTube and Spotify won't see it.
My email address is Shlomo Kessel, one word, SHLOMOKESSEL@gmail.com.
Right, excellent. And you can look up Emunah, of course, on the web. Wow, Shlomo, firstly, as I said, Emunah has been such an important part of my life, and I couldn't think of a better organization that I would like to spotlight and highlight this week, being International Women's Day, at the end of the week. So definitely Emunah is for sure something that's that should take priority, and yes, that should be basically highlighted and spotlighted across the world, and certainly across Israel today. I'm very grateful for the wonderful years that I was able to contribute, and I was small fry. There's so many people in this room that did way, way more. And as I say, I like to consider you the man behind Emunah. Yes, there are other men. So this week we are highlighting and spotlighting this wonderful organization. So please do reach out. Please do volunteer, whether it's donate or volunteer. There are fantastic opportunities to do so. There are also other ways. For example, there's a wonderful Emunah conference taking place, World Emunah, on Thursday in Jerusalem, this coming Thursday. So I'm going to be there, and I look forward to seeing if any of you are going to be there. Shlomo, I understand, is also going to be there. And also on April 1st, our dear friend Rini Becker, who's in the room today, organizes an annual conference, a concert, an amazing concert at the Jerusalem Theatre. So I've already bought my tickets. If you haven't yet bought your tickets, make sure you do so. It's always a fabulous event, and it's going towards a fantastic cause. So thank you again, Shlomo, for being a wonderful guest.
May I make one more? Can I interrupt you? Just to recognize, I've been looking at Toby and saying, I know this person. I've met her before. And so thank you very much for mentioning. And I now remember what the...
Correct. Toby is a fabulous journalist and entertainer, right? And she did a PR piece.
I think you were also present once at a Torah conference in 2018 when they gave me an award, and I think you were in the room at the same time.
Okay, there you go. So
very well be.
I knew that I remember.
And I've done other things with Emunah over the years. The only reason I wrote that one was because, wow, that was like from way long ago.
Right, that was something special too. Listen, there's been amazing special things. So, you know, many of you in the room here may have had contact with Emunah who hasn't had touch and contact with Emunah. So thank you again, Shlomo. Thank you again to a wonderful organization. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you again to our sponsors, Nardis Advisors, and to Eggert & Cohen Insurance. Besorot Tovot, Am Yisrael Chai, and may we have a safe, peaceful, quiet, and a good week. Thank you again. Have a great day.